She smiled when she said it, calm, unbothered, like she was declining a dinner reservation, not ending 8 months of my life. Lucas, we were never official, so there is nothing to end. Then she turned back to her friends and laughed at something someone else said. I was still standing there holding a glass of champagne I never got to drink. That moment happened 3 weeks ago, not because it broke me, but because the second she said it, something clicked. She wasn't being honest. She was protecting something. Let me explain from the beginning. My name is Lucas Hayes, 30 years old, financial analyst at a boutique firm in Boston. I met Bella Crane in April at an art exhibition in South End. She was standing near a large canvas print, absorbed in the painting, not performing interest, actually interested. We talked for 2 hours. She was a freelance graphic designer, sharp, funny, confident in a way that felt earned. By the time we left, she had already texted me an article about the artist. I thought, this one is different. For 8 months, Bella was the most consistent person in my life. We saw each other at least 3 times a week. I cooked Sunday dinners. She designed a logo for my side project for free, just because she wanted to. I met her friends. She met my colleagues. It felt like everything a relationship was supposed to be. Minus the label she claimed she didn't believe in. Month 3, she took me to her sister Dana's birthday in Providence. Dana hugged me and said, finally, Bella found someone worth keeping. Bella laughed, squeezed my hand, and never corrected her. That detail matters. Around month 4, I asked where things were headed. Bella set her fork down and said, Lucas, I hate the concept of making things official. If 2 people care about each other, why do they need a label? She said it so calmly I felt embarrassed for asking, so I let it go. That was my mistake. 3 weeks before the party, my colleague Nate texted me, was Bella at the Seaport real estate launch last night? I saw her with some guy. They both had rings on, looked like a couple. I told myself he was probably wrong. That night I opened Instagram and landed on Bella's profile. She had posted a new branding project. In the comments I saw a message from an account called Marcus Reed Boston. It said, my beautiful fiancé always working late. Small black heart. I screenshot it. 6 hours later the comment was gone, but I had the screenshot, and I had that word stuck in my chest. Fiancé, I didn't call her. I sat in my kitchen and thought carefully about what I knew. That is how I operate. I don't react to one data point. I look for patterns. The pattern was 8 months long. Every weekend she said she was visiting a client. Every Tuesday she was finishing a deadline. Every time I suggested a trip, she said, not this time. I had accepted all of it. Now I was looking at a man calling her his fiancé and realizing the reason she never wanted a label wasn't because she was progressive. It was because she already had one. The party was at a penthouse in Back Bay. Our mutual friend Derek was turning 32. Around 30 people, good food, good music. Bella and I arrived together. She wore a dark green dress and looked exactly the way she always did. For the first hour, things felt normal. She laughed at my jokes. She touched my arm while talking to someone else. But I kept thinking about that comment. I kept glancing at her hand, noticing the ring that wasn't there. Then Derek tapped his glass. Quick toast before cake. Lucas, 6 years. Say something. I stood up. I hadn't planned this, but I had 8 months of questions and thought, if I am wrong about all of this, I need to know right now. I looked at Bella and said, 8 months ago I met someone who changed how I think about a lot of things. These have been the best 8 months of my life. Bella, will you be my girlfriend? The room went quiet. Someone actually lowered their drink. Bella looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her before. Not surprised, not moved. Something carefully controlled. She smiled, small, measured. Then she said it. Lucas, we were never official, so there is nothing to end. She said it like she was correcting a minor scheduling mistake. Detached, comfortable. Then she turned to the woman beside her and picked up a separate conversation, as if nothing had happened at all. I sat back down. Derek gave me a look I will never forget. I stayed another 40 minutes because leaving right away felt worse. When I got home, I pulled up the screenshot one more time. Fiancé. That one word explained everything she had never said. I wasn't angry. I was something quieter. I had been living inside a story I thought we were writing together. That night I understood I was the only one who had been writing it. I wasn't going to confront her with a deleted comment. I was going to find out the full picture first. I closed my laptop. I had work to do. Update 1. The fiancé she never mentioned. I spent the next 3 days doing what I do best. Not reacting. Quietly gathering information. The morning after the party I opened LinkedIn and searched 2 words, Marcus Reed, Boston. The second result was him. Marcus Reed, 35. Founder of Reed Group Properties in the Seaport District, public profile. I scrolled through it the way I would scroll a financial report. Looking for data, his cover photo stopped me cold. Him and Bella standing on a deck overlooking what I recognized as Martha's Vineyard. She was laughing. He had his arm around her and was looking at the camera like he had just won something. The caption read, "Celebrating our engagement with the most beautiful woman I know." I checked the date, 4 months old. 4 months ago, Bella and I were in month 4 of whatever we were calling what we had. The month she told me she hated labels. The month I felt embarrassed for asking where things stood. She wasn't anti-label. She was already labeled to someone else. Not to me. I went back through everything in my head. Every weekend she said she had client work. Every evening she was unavailable. Every time she said not this week, I had taken her at her word because I had no reason not to. She hadn't been careless. She had been deliberate. There is a difference. I added the LinkedIn screenshot to the folder next to the Instagram. 2 pieces of evidence. I wasn't going to act yet. What I didn't expect was for the full picture to walk into my email inbox 6 days later. Tuesday morning, I was at my desk when a notification came from my work account. The sender was HR at Hartwell Capital. Hartwell was an investment firm our company occasionally partnered with. Solid reputation. I had met a few of their people at industry events. The email said, "Hi Lucas. Just following up. We hired Bella Crane for a branding project based on your strong recommendation. Her proposal was outstanding. We have wired the first installment of $38,000 to her account. Thanks again for the introduction." I read it twice. Then once more. I had never written a recommendation for Bella. I had never contacted Hartwell about her. Not once in any form. I called the HR contact directly, asked her to read me the email address. The recommendation came from 1 letter off from my actual work address. A spoofed account built to pass a quick glance. I told her I hadn't sent that letter. I asked her to flag it with their legal team. She went very quiet. I apologized, told her I would follow up in writing, and hung up. I sat back and looked at the ceiling. Bella had created a fake recommendation using my name and a spoofed version of my professional email to win a $38,000 contract. She had used my reputation, my name, my standing in this industry to open a door she couldn't open on her own. And she had done it while I was still bringing her coffee on Sunday mornings. I texted her that afternoon, short and direct. "Can we meet coffee?" "Just us. No drama," she replied in 4 minutes. "Sure, tomorrow. The place on Newbury Street." That speed told me everything. She wasn't nervous. She thought this was a conversation she could manage. We met the next morning at 10. She was already there. Dark jacket, hair down, completely relaxed in a way that takes real effort to perform. She smiled when I walked in. "Hey you." Like the party had not happened. Like none of it existed. I sat down, ordered a coffee. Let the silence sit for a moment. She tilted her head. "You seem tense." I set my phone on the table between us. Screen up. The Instagram screenshot. Marcus Reed, Boston. My beautiful fiancé, always working late. She looked at it. A few seconds passed. Then she let out a slow breath. She met my eyes and said, "Lucas, I have told you before. We were never official. I don't owe you an explanation about my personal life." I nodded. "Okay, I hear that." Then I opened my email, found the forwarded message from Hartwell Capital, and set the phone back down with that showing. For the first time since I had known her, Bella Crane had nothing ready. The color left her face in 2 seconds flat. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. I waited. She started to say something, stopped, tried again. "That isn't what it looks like." "Then tell me what it looks like," I said. She didn't answer. I put the phone back in my pocket, stood up, and left enough cash on the table for both coffees. She was still sitting there when I put on my jacket. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I am going to be honest," I said. "That is what I always do." I walked out into the cold morning air, 8 months of Sundays, 8 months of her saying labels meant nothing. The whole time she had been building a life with someone else and using my professional name to help pay for it. The label had never been meaningless. It had just been inconvenient for her. I had a clear decision to make, and I already knew exactly what it was going to be. Update 2: When her two worlds collided the next morning, I sent a formal email to Hartwell Capital's legal team, professional and factual. I hadn't written the recommendation letter they received. The email address it came from was not mine. The signature was forged. I attached a screenshot showing my actual work email alongside the spoofed one. I told them I was available for follow-up. I didn't send that email to hurt Bella. I sent it because my name was on a fraudulent document, and I was not going to let that sit. That is not revenge. That is basic self-protection. What happened next wasn't something I caused. It was already there, waiting to be found. Hartwell's legal team launched an internal review. They went back through Bella's full submission, the portfolio she had used to win the contract, the branding samples she had presented as her own. 2 designs did not hold up under scrutiny. Their team cross-referenced the images and found the originals on the portfolio website of a designer named Rachel Park, based in Chicago. Rachel had worked at the same agency as Bella 3 years prior. The 2 pieces had been lifted from Rachel's work, restyled slightly, and presented as original. The contract was suspended the very same day. Hartwell's legal team sent Bella a formal notice demanding the return of the $38,000 advance. I found out through a brief email from Hartwell's counsel confirming my name had been fully cleared and thanking me for bringing the issue forward. I read it once. Then I set my phone down and went back to work. I hadn't planned that. What happened 4 days later wasn't something I planned either. It was around 2 in the afternoon when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Boston area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. The voice on the other end was calm measured. The kind of calm that takes real effort when you aren't feeling calm at all. "My name is Marcus Reed. I believe you know Bella Crane. I think we should talk." I didn't say anything for a moment. Then I said, "Okay." We met the following morning at a coffee shop on Charles Street in Beacon Hill. Quiet neighborhood. Not a place either of us would normally run into people we knew. I appreciated that detail. It told me he was thinking clearly despite everything. I got there first. He walked in a few minutes later, taller than his LinkedIn photos. He shook my hand when he sat down, thanked me for coming. No aggression. He looked like a man who had not slept well in days and was making a point not to let it show. He told me he had been contacted by Jess, who had been at Derek's birthday party the night. Bella turned me down in front of everyone. Jess and Marcus were in the same Boston real estate and investment circle. She had sent him a photo from the party. Me standing up with a glass of champagne, Bella responding with that line, the look on my face after. Jess hadn't done it to cause trouble, Marcus said. She had done it because she felt someone should know. After hearing from Jess, Marcus had started going back through things. Bella had been absent most weekends for 8 months. Always a client meeting. Always a project running. He had seen her invoicing records once. Early in their engagement, a tidy spreadsheet. He hadn't thought to look for names that were missing. There was no client named Lucas anywhere in her records. He had been covering her freelance expenses for most of their engagement, believing he was supporting her business while it grew. Now he was sitting across from the man whose professional name she had used to grow it faster. We sat there for a while, filling in the gaps for each other. He told me things I hadn't known. I told him things he hadn't known. Neither of us raised our voices. At some point, he said, she used me for stability, a home, a future, someone to come back to. I am not sure what she needed from you. I thought about it. My network, I said. She knew who I worked with and who trusted my name. I was a way into a contract she couldn't get on her own. He nodded slowly. The way people nod when something confirms what they already suspected but still stings to hear said out loud. We finished our coffees. Neither of us needed to say much more. We were simply 2 people who had trusted the same person and discovered she had been running a different calculation the entire time. When we stood to leave, he asked, "Do you regret it? Not just letting it go?" I thought about that for a real moment. Not the quick kind where you say what sounds right. No, I said, because if I had let it go, I would still be living inside a story where I wasn't the main character. He considered that, gave a small nod. Then he shook my hand and walked out onto Charles Street. I stood there for a long moment. Somewhere across the city, Bella was dealing with a suspended contract, a legal notice, and a broken engagement. All of it coming apart at once. None of it was what I had wanted for her, but every bit of it was what she had built. Final update: what nothing to end actually ended the weeks after my coffee with Marcus were quiet in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I heard about what happened to Bella the way you hear things in a city like Boston when you run in overlapping circles, pieces from different directions. None of it sought out. All of it arriving anyway. The legal dispute with Hartwell stretched on. She returned a portion of the advance. The rest became negotiation between lawyers. Her name circulated through a few firms in the creative and investment space, the kind of informal flagging that travels fast through the right conversations. The forged email had been noted. The Rachel Park situation had been noted. In a city where reputation is currency, that kind of information does not stay contained. Marcus removed every photo of Bella from his Instagram within 48 hours of our meeting in Beacon Hill. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. In the Boston real estate and creative communities where everyone knows everyone through 2 or 3 connections, that silence said everything. People filled in the rest themselves. I didn't reach out to Bella. I had nothing to add. That chapter felt closed in a way I hadn't expected so soon. Then she showed up at my office. It was a Friday afternoon in late January. I was pulling on my coat to leave when my phone buzzed with a message from the front desk downstairs. Someone was asking for me in the lobby. No appointment, just a first name. Bella. I took the elevator down. She was standing near the window by the entrance, arms crossed in the kind of way that means holding yourself together. Her eyes were red in the way left over from a lot of crying. The composure that had always been so effortless on her was gone. What was underneath looked younger and more tired. I didn't know where else to go, she said. I didn't answer that. I waited. She took a breath. Lucas, I know what I did was wrong. I told myself I could keep everything separate. I told myself nobody was getting hurt because we weren't official. I actually believed that. I think that is the worst part. I looked at her. Then I said, Bella, the problem was never whether we were official. The problem is that you built everything around the idea that your actions had no consequences because you hadn't given them a formal name. That isn't a philosophy. That is avoiding responsibility. She looked at the floor. I am not saying this to hurt you, I said. I am saying it because I think you need to hear it from someone who isn't angry. I am not angry. What I am clear. And being clear feels better than anything I felt during those 8 months. She looked up. I am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. It doesn't have to fix anything, I told her. It just has to be true. She nodded once. Then she walked out through the glass doors. I watched her turn the corner. I stood in the lobby for a beat. Then I went back upstairs, finished my notes, and went home. 2 months later, I was promoted to senior analyst. The following week, Hartwell Capital reached out directly through their head of partnerships. They wanted to discuss a collaboration. I responded the next morning. I also met Claire. She was an attorney at a firm in Cambridge. We met at a networking event. We talked for an hour about things unrelated to work, and at the end she handed me her card and said, "You should call me." Not as a professional contact. She was clear about that. I called her 3 days later. We had dinner. Then again the week after that. On our 4th date she asked if we were seeing each other exclusively, and I said yes without hesitating. And she said good, and that was it. No ambiguity, no objections to naming what something was, just 2 people deciding plainly what they wanted. I remember thinking, this is what it is supposed to feel like. I think about that night at Derek's party sometimes, the way Bella said, we were never official, so there is nothing to end. I used to hear it as humiliation. Now I see it differently. She was right that there was nothing to end, because for her, it had never been real. What I was treating as a relationship was a convenience she managed around a life she had somewhere else. The label had been missing not because she was thoughtful about commitment, but because commitment was never part of her plan. But here is what that sentence actually ended, even if she didn't mean it to. It ended my willingness to accept ambiguity as a substitute for honesty. It ended 8 months of Sunday dinners that meant more to me than they ever did to her. It ended the version of me who believed patience alone was enough to build something real. Bella said there was nothing to end. She was wrong. There was quite a lot. I just needed someone to finally say it out loud. Sometimes people tell you the truth not because they are being honest, but because they aren't careful enough to keep hiding it. That was the truest thing Bella ever said to me. She just didn't know she was saying it.